this evening, this Wednesday, the 14th of January. I keep going to say December for some reason. I don't know why. Perhaps because I still want it to be Christmas. So, guys, let's get into this amazing community. It's the first thing I always say on this channel because you guys make this channel amazing. Chelsea and Arsenal have just finished 3-2 to Arsenal in the first leg. I've got no doubts tonight. The Garnacho crew will be in tonight. I'm gonna predict it now. I bet you that the Garnacho crowd will be on here tonight, telling us about how good Garnacho is, about how amazing Garnacho is. I guarantee tonight. Before we start, we'll have the Garnacho crew in tonight. We'll have the how we shouldn't have let Garnacho go. He scored two goals tonight. Garnacho is the GOAT. Amarin is this because he let him go. I just guarantee it. I guarantee it tonight. So look, the first thing to say is get into this amazing community. The only thing we say is be respectful to the community first and foremost. Be respectful to yourselves. I think that's quite important to say. Look, just because we can't see you doesn't mean you can't be respectful to yourselves. Be respectful to me. Otherwise, the ban hammer does come out, and you will get banned. It's not something that we like to do. Some of us do have itchy trigger fingers. Jaden is in the chat. He says, "Hi mate, come on City." Jaden, my friend, I hope you're doing extremely well, buddy. Yeah, mate. Look, City fans tonight. Look, we don't want the banter, and that's the second thing to say on this channel is we don't mind the banter. Absolutely got no problem with that as long as it comes from a respectful place. We've got no issues at all. Second thing to say is that I'm not a dictator of this chat. This is why these shows take so long, because I read out your chats. I respect your opinion, but I do read out chats, so this is why this show takes so long. So get in your opinions about anything. This is a late show. I am going to go through the City stuff as we always do. We'll go through a preview because it's important to get on record that we say this stuff, and we'll see what happens. So get into the chat first. Nobody. Sky is in here. Says, "Hi JB, home from work. Night shift cancelled. Hope you had a good day." Not bad. I hope you're doing well. I hope not doing the night shift. Hope doesn't negatively impact you. I tell you what. I've seen it a couple of times in the chat. I don't necessarily know what the connotations are, Sky, but in my cupboard, kid you not, there were some jelly tots. I know you guys have been talking about that in the chat, but I found some of those in my cupboard today. The kids brought them home, so I just thought that was something to mention. Jane says, United and City are better because they are the same place, just the stadium is just far away. The games are all about opinions, and that's the fun part. If everyone agreed, it would be boring. And that's exactly it. That is exactly it. Exactly it. Look, some of us don't agree. Look, you guys in here are legends, right? We talk about stuff. Sometimes, I may come back on stuff, but it's not because I'm disrespecting the opinion. It's just because you spark off opinions, and we don't always have to agree. You guys have been on it now for quite some time, and I love the fact that we can have a debate, we can have an opinion. But look, it is ultimately all about your view. We don't see the world in the same light. Doesn't mean that you're wrong. There are things in life that are just wrong, but whether you're Glazers in, Sir Jim in, Glazers out, players in, players out, if your favourite player in the world is I don't know. Put the link of your song on your page, John. I can't find it. Oh, bloody hell. I'm gonna have to find it. I'll find it, and I will put it on at some point. Hilarious. Night shift cancelled as I'd done one last night, then covered someone's day shift until 9 p.m. They couldn't then make me work another night. So I'm off tonight, but I'm back in at 7 a.m. Rob, big up JB and all in the chat. Big up, my buddy. Hope you're doing extremely well. So look, what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to, unless you guys shift towards that chat, which we can do in a bit, I wanted to be positive, a positive. Just for the last, I think it's an amazing thing that you did for. Look, I do things all the time, right? Not advertising it, you know, but we did I did a song with a friend of mine who actually comes on here actually. So if you see somebody on here called Tom MC, absolute legend, we did a song together. Look, it's not the greatest song in the world, but look, you know, we did it for a good cause. I do run events, you know, when I say I run events, I mean I'm not in charge of the events. I actually run. So I do like 100k and like 150ks. I did one for Action for Children. And yeah, so I do. Look, it's really important to me to give back to people, not because I'm great, not because I'm good, just because I just feel like I've got an obligation to do that sort of stuff. So you know, it says you clearly have a sense of humour. You support United. You've got to, right? You've got to absolutely have a sense of humour. So, Kieran says, can I ask you why you get blocked when you ask a question or disagree with you? I don't block you. It's not me, mate. Look, Kieran, it depends, right? I don't tend to block people if your question is rude. If people's questions are rude, if people's questions are spamming, if you think that if you start talking about fans, look, there are certain things that I do, but apologies. Look, Kieran, mate, absolutely. Look, things happen, right? But Kieran, look, my friend, ask a question. Ask a question. So you know, just yeah, let's start fresh. Rob says, just a quick question. Do you think Holland coming in on the coaching team is a setup for summer for Southgate? Just makes me wonder. And I'm with you. I did a video quite some time ago when people were talking about Saka and Amrin, right? And I said it's going to be. I need to start to put links to stuff, right? I did a video on it, and I said if Amrin gets sacked, Gareth Southgate will be the guy that comes in. Now, the thing is with that is that Sir Jim likes him. I know Wilcox likes him as well. It's a typical Ineos move. It's a typical Ineos move. It's to get him in via the back door. I don't like it. Well, I don't like it. I don't like the Holland appointment. I don't like it. You know, we're now not Carrick, and I'll talk about them in this game as well because I do want to go through the game as well, and I do want to spread some positivity tonight. Look, it is a derby. I'm going to put my grievances against this ownership, the management, the players. This is about us, right? So this game is about us. I don't give a shit about the players. This is about us. So look, positivity street, we need it, right? So look, I agree with you. It terrifies me. Henderson says, it's finally great to be here. I love that opening line, my friend. Absolute love it. I've never seen anyone blocked, and I'm a cheeky twat at times, but it's all in jest. Exactly. I think it's paved the way for Southgate to walk in the summer. Just my opinion, though. And again, I've thought this for quite some time, and it really is terrifying. Chris O'Connor, I'm Liverpool 40 years. United were the team that I grew up admiring, even though I was jealous. I don't like to see this one. Look, mate, Chris, thank you for the comment, buddy. And look, if you've been a regular viewer of this channel, I give Liverpool their dues all of the time, right? You know, and I feel a similar way. You know, it's all about respect. If there are two clubs in England who surpass everybody else in terms of the club, the history, the stature, the rivalry, the things that they've done, Liverpool and United. Whenever I talk about captains, right, I always talk about Bruno Fernandes. He's not the captain of this club. I always say that to be the captain of, there are two clubs where a captain has to transcend the players, has to be a not a fan, but has to be a true leader of not only the men on the pitch, but of the crowd as well. The only two teams really, in my view, that you have to have those captains above everyone else are Liverpool and United. Kiri says, how long a project do you think it is to get United back in the glory days, or at least competing at the highest level? So, Kieran, this is what I believe, is that we need to stop thinking about the glory days, right? I would go with your second statement, right? Is how do we get into being competitive again? How do we get back to an elite club, right? The only way we get back to an elite club is when the debt is gone, when the debt's cleared, and we get owners who basically want to start to treat this club like an elite club again. If we don't, it could take an exponential time to do this. Can we have success? Of course we can. But what that success is, I don't want that sporadic success where you win a Europa League, we get to two finals, we lose the finals. We finished second in the Premier League once in the last 6 or 7 years. I want sustained. I want Arsenal. I want a City. City have been phenomenal. I want to be that competitive side again. So I think, Kieran, it's one of those things whereby at a minimum now, if we're going to change this team again, it's going to take an exponential amount of time. It's difficult. It's difficult. If Amrin was still in charge and we were looking to progress that, I would say you'd probably be looking 3 years. But right now, it sets us back again. So, I think a minimum of 3-4 years again. Ryan says, evening all, good evening. Red or Dead, like and subscribe. Thanks, buddy. Hope you're doing extremely well. Did Holland work with Carragher Borough? That is a good question. I don't know. Maybe somebody can fill me in chat. As a modern here, all we ask is to show respect to JB and the community. We don't mind a bit of banter as long as it's respectful. If not respectful, the banhammer comes out. Exactly, the good old banhammer comes out. Has to respect whatever's come for them too. Both have a massive history that was built by world-class legends. Exactly, 4 or 5 of consistent hard work, making the right decisions. I think that will get us competitive again. Ryan, yeah. Nikarutsu, legend, and all you wonderful fans of the channel. Nikarutsu, legend, my friend. I hope you are doing extremely well. The Champions League prize money is far too much to miss out on. The longer the team is in the Champions League, the further the gap gets. And this is why it baffles me, right? You tell me your opinion on this, and I'll tell you for why I would spend the money, right? I've said this before. It's a boom or bust, right? Is if we spend the money now, and this is how you know you're run by a business person, right? In life, you have to sometimes speculate to accumulate. And what I mean is that if you buy 2 players now, and it will get you into the Champions League, right? Yes, you've brought that money forward. But as you just said there, you get to the Champions League, the extra money, the sponsorship, the better players that will come to you, the better players that you get, the further you go past Grimsby, the further you go than the 3rd round, you get deeper into the Champions League, you get more money, you get better players, and that's what football is. It is high risk, and sadly, we don't have that mentality of eliteness, and we've got debt. Sky says, personally, I just want us to be up there. Challenging seems like we're way off that. Yes, I do agree. Chris says, I'm a fan of football, mate. Watching United in Sir Alex Days was football at its finest. Same with Klopp and Liverpool, but City Gunners now for a while to come. Yeah, Chris, I watched the documentary with with King Kenny in it, right? And it was when King Kenny went from Celtic, went to Liverpool, replaced Keegan. I tell you what, you know, I would go and say, go and watch that for any people who want to know history of football. I'm not talking about Liverpool, but if you want to know the domination and you want to know about the mentality, what's Liverpool 70s, 80s, and then United from obviously the 90s until the noughties. If you watch those two, the class of 92, the King Kenny stuff, like it is unreal. What weaknesses do you think United can exploit? I will come on to that. I'll get through the chats quickly, and then I will come onto that as well. It looks like Arteta 6 years has got Arsenal into a position managing needs and consistent backing. Exactly. It says, I'm exhausted. Work at 7 and only finished at 10. Same again tomorrow. Jesus Christ, mate. Be careful what you are chasing, John. Remember Leeds. Yes. Exactly. I remember Leeds getting to a semi-final of a Champions League. I remember when they had Viduka, Keane, Batty, Milner, Hasselbank. I don't know if Hasselbank was there then, and they had that team. And you look at what happened. Risdale run them into the ground. I really worry about the signings. We've a track record of buying absolute tripe. I think we will actually beat City 2-1. John, please give us your team you think Carrick will pick on Saturday. Your score prediction for Derby. Are you confident as I am? I will do that. Surpass Keegan is on Prime Video. No, it is. It is. You know, when Kevin Keegan left for Hamburg and Keegan came in, unbelievable. Unbelievable. I know it's off topic, but Kevin Bassey is putting some performances in the AFCON. I've thought, but I have to wonder, family help out with them. I'm gifted in that sense, but I'm certainly not built for this work. Arsenal haven't won it yet. Still a long way to go, says Rob James. Look, you know, yes, they haven't won anything, right? You know, they are the perennial the bridesmaid and never the bride. So, you know, Chris says, Knight from Ireland, better than winning the lottery. Villa win the league. Look, of everybody else, I'd like Villa to win it. The Bordeaux fan says, when did you give up your Bolton season ticket? Never had one, buddy. Kieran says, I'm not a United fan. I've done the laughing bit at the expense of fans. Have to say now, I find it so sad. I grew up with United as the best team in the Prem. I support Villa. Look, mate, I've got maximum respect for Villa this season. You know, I've often said this, right? And this is a big up to you. This is maximum respect. I would go for an Emery if I was in charge of this club, Villa. I would be Kieran. I'd be coming for your manager, and I'm not saying, and this is not a saying that you know that he would come, you know, and it's not a disrespect. It's an absolute respect to Villa. I think Emery's doing a fantastic job, and look, I do hope that Villa can do something. It would be fantastic. Right, bed, wife annoyed, I'm still up. Good night, buddy. Keegan won the Ballon d'Or when he left Liverpool. He was a world-class player, and Kenny was a gamble, but paid off. Yeah, he did, didn't he? He won the Ballon d'Or at Hamburg. Don't forget, guys, the Manchester Derby is at 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. Come on, you Reds. Who do you want United as the manager? Pick one of Carrick goes at the end of the season. If I had to pick one here and now, and I have to be honest, right, my pick is based on who owns the club, right? I'm not a person who goes, oh, I want to get a fantasy manager, right? If I had to pick one guy, Emery would be the guy. Harif says, would Goldbridge be good for the dressing room at this point? Oh, Harif. Mate, respect Harif. You know that, buddy. Look, Goldbridge, mate. I'm not talking about Goldbridge. This is not his channel. He's got a massive channel. I don't care. I don't care. If he gets Villa top 4, he can't leave Villa. Look, Rob, with what Emery's done, with what they've had to put up with and had to sell, Villa have done it. Emery and Villa have done a fantastic job. I strongly disagree that you need 3 to 4 years to be competitive again. Sorry, it's just an agenda that's sold to us. We need a coach with an idea that players would believe in. Nobody believes in the slow progress. Now, look, Edin, I think that this is a show that respects opinions, and I read out your opinion, and I get it, right? I strongly disagree with you, my friend. The opinion is a valid opinion, right? But I disagree with that opinion. There is an infection of in this club. There is a loser mentality. These players, there is no coach in the world that will come in with these players and make these players better, right, Edin? You may disagree with that, and I fully accept it. I may be wrong. I may be completely wrong, and Carey comes in and Emery comes in. But my only question here is that, and this is an open question, right, is what manager is going to come in and fix a Luke Shaw? What manager is going to come in and fix a Mason Mount? What manager is going to come in and fix a Maguire and make him younger? Is a manager going to come in and fix a Casemiro? We've got too many number 10s. You've got Fernandez, who's a 10, 32 years old. How are you? Fernandez is going to be gone. Fernandez is not going to last, right? So we need to replace that. And let's just say if Fernandez is a 10, so we've got Mbumo as 10, we've got Cunha as 10, we've got Fernandez as 10, we've got Mason Mount as 10, Ahmad is a 10, Mainu is a 10. You know, I'm not disagreeing with your points of, you know, a good coach. But these players, Edin, have shown, and I don't believe it's confidence. You know, how do these players need confidence? These are grown men. You know, some of them are not, and kids, and I fully agree that they need support. But they showed against a Grimsby. Look, mate, they showed it against Burnley and a Brighton. There's nowhere for these players to hide. There is nowhere for these players to hide. I disagree with you on the basis that we need different players. And these players have sacked multiple managers. Luke Shaw, look, just explain to me how Luke Shaw is sacked God knows how many managers. A Dallo is sacked how many managers as well. Why is it the coach's fault? It's always the coach's fault. Why don't these players get the blame consistently? And we say, you know, these players are not the same. No, they're not. But there's an infection in this side that when you breed being a loser, just like you can breed being a winner, you know, if you look at it, is there any coincidence? And people don't seem to accept that you can breed incompetence. You can breed a loser mentality, right? People don't seem to accept that. But if you look at Fergie teams, and look, I'm going back to the Fergie teams, not because I'm talking about that. If you look at the mentality of those players, right? Why was it from 91, 92, when they just lost out on the league to Leeds, all the way through to when Ferguson left, we had multiple players, right? Why was it that he recycled teams? How did Ferguson recycle teams? You know, he brought in the class of 92. You know, he brought Anderson, Nani, Hernandez, all these young players through because they were infected by winners. They were infected by winners. And also they had the players there. This team, if you infected this team with a winning mentality, then maybe you could push some of these players. But you can't do that until you remove these players. So look, whilst I respect the opinion, I disagree for the reasons that I've just said. And these fans says Carrick is going to get smashed in the next 2 games. He's completely out of his depth. Keegan has recently been diagnosed with cancer. I mean, that is horrific. I don't wish that on anybody at all. That is horrific. Good evening, everyone. Where would United need to finish for Carrick to get the job full time? Nowhere. He's not winning the league. He's not finishing second or third. He's not winning the FA Cup. He's not winning the Carabao Cup. I don't want Carrick to have the full-time job. I do not want the Ollie experiment. I do not want the Di Matteo experiment. I don't want a manager who is a caretaker, who's an ex-player. We need to move away from ex-players. We need to learn the lessons of the past in terms of the mentality and how do we bring that elite mindset back in. Everything else forgotten. The Fergie days are gone. Those days are gone. We need to move on. The lessons that we take, because you can take the lessons of the past. Fergie took lessons from Sir Matt Busby. The next coach, the next long-term coach, needs to take lessons from the Fergie, but that's done and dusted, right? We need to take the lessons further. Carrick, for me, is not the guy. I want best-in-class Carrick. Look, I'm going to support Carrick. I want him to do well. I want him to get 5th. But I don't want him as a manager. I'm sorry, I don't. I understand that it can be my frustration. Look, Edin, nobody needs to apologise on here for their opinions. Obviously, unless you insult people, you come on here, mate. This is your channel. Have your opinion. Have your say. Rob says Mike Ashley left Newcastle, Levy Spurs. Do you think the Glazers and Ratcliffe are going to be here for a long time? Now, Rob, mate, this is the thing, isn't it? I think what is going to be the determining factor are 2 things. One, will the regeneration project happen? And is there going to be too much debt? So if as soon as they break ground and start the rebuild, they're not going to go. And look, this club is always up for sale, right? Let's have this out in the open, right? This club is always for sale. The Glazers would sell their granny for £1. So this club is up for sale, but it's about the price. So will they leave? 3 things, actually. Number 1 is if the regeneration project doesn't happen or takes too long, I think they might sell. If they run out of money, which they could do, they'll go. And there was a 3rd point I was going to make, but I got my old brain on, so I can't think about it. Yeah, if they are hounded out, Sir Jim, his words, basically said if he gets loads of stick and not abuse, because I don't believe that's right. If Sir Jim gets a lot of stick and people are forcing him out, he said that he'll leave. Why aren't we doing it? And I'm not talking about abuse. I'm talking about peaceful. Why aren't we getting this guy out? As soon as you topple Sir Jim, he'll go. And he basically said, as long as he doesn't get abuse and he doesn't get shouted at, he'll stay here. Dennis says, our rebuild can never work. Till you start from the top. They are the grey cloud that causes it. I'd rather listen to musical farts than listen to Mark Olbridge. A manager can't fix Shaw. The medical staff can't fix Shaw. Andrew says, Fernandez could only be at top level. Could be at the top level for another 6 or so years. I think the type of player that he is, I think he could be, but I don't want to build a team around him. I've got no problem. The problem for me with Fernandes is this: if Fernandes was just another player and not the captain, fine, keep him. I've got no issue with that. He's not a captain, and the only way you're going to remove that is to basically he's got to go. James Hardy says Manu and Mount are not 10s. Well, I disagree with that, James. I disagree with it. Manu is not really an 8. Manu is not a 6. Manu is, the 10 position, in my view, you can have the split 10s. You can be, that 10 that sits behind the Bruno Fernandes 10. I disagree with you. We don't know what Manu is, and Mason Mount. Well, what's Mason Mount then? Mason Mount is not a wide player. Mason Mount is not a winger. Mason Mount is not a second striker. Mason Mount is not a striker. What's Mason Mount? I think the number 10 position is one of those positions that is a bit of a wide ranging position. Manu is not an 8. Manu is not a 6. Manu is better receiving the ball to feet and attacking phase. He's not good at the defensive phase. Go and look at his stats. He is not a defensive type of player. He is an offensive player. So Manu falls somewhere between an 8 and a 10. Mason Mount, I really don't care what he is. Mason Mount is not a winger. Mason Mount is not an 8. Mason Mount is a hybrid 10. And whatever the 10 is, the number 10 position. Now you could have split number 10s that are winger type players. You can have central number 10s. So I don't agree with you. I think Mason Mount is absolutely a hybrid 10. It's somewhere between an 8 and a 10, and he can't be a 9. And Mason Mount is basically Mason Mount is not an 8. Nish fan says I'd buy Kante. Noise in Boomer says James Hardy. Look, I would argue more about Mason Mount and Kobe Manu. I think in Boomer, I think you're right, James. I think in Boomer is a wide player. Rob James says if there are 350 a week kids in school, wife happy, they're not going to Fulham for 50k a week, so they a manager. I don't get that. Bruno for me can go in the summer and we cash in and get a top CDM because we know we need 1, maybe 2. That's just for starters. Shaw should not be scapegoated here. Look, James, Luke Shaw is not a scapegoat, right? He's not a scapegoat, right? I've named a number of players on this channel that I can't. I consistently say, James, I cannot stand these players. But whether you like it or not, my friend, Luke Shaw has sacked. He hasn't personally sacked it. He hasn't personally sacked, so I will retract that statement. Luke Shaw has been in teams that have sacked multiple managers. Luke Shaw is not the main problem. Look, these players are not the main problem. They are the problem on the pitch. I will always say this about these players. Nobody forced them to sign a contract. Nobody, was forced into purchasing these players, right? Could these players work in a different team? If Luke Shaw went to a different team, I'm sure he would be better. He'd be in a different team. But is Luke Shaw an elite player anymore? No. So look, whilst I respect it, I'm not having that. We don't scapegoat players on here. There are players that have been poor this season, and whether people like it or not, there are players that have been poor this season. Fernandes has been poor this season. Luke Shaw has been poor this season. Delot has been poor this season. I'm trying not to mention the younger players because I don't think that's fair. Casemiro hasn't been great either. Ugarte has been awful. Mason Mount. Look, I'm not saying that he's been awful. I'm not classing him as a player, but his injury record has been abysmal. It's just littered. It's just littered with players that are bad. But look, those players didn't pick themselves. Those players didn't. We've got a collection of players that sadly that they need to leave. We run like Mickey Mouse Club from the top. We need to change. There is a great cloud over the team that stems from the owners down. Grace Legend says we win in the league. Did he take lessons from Ron Atkinson too? Good point. I reckon he did. I reckon his lessons from Big Ron was I'm not going to do it the same as you. Who is best in class? And looking at, I think that's a fantastic. I think that's a fantastic question. Off the top of my head, I'm not going to lie. I would need to look it up. But you need to go out there and you need to get a CEO who has got years and years of experience. At least 5 to 10 years at a elite world-class club. You need to get a director of football who has he's proven it at different clubs. It doesn't necessarily have to be at a Madrid. He can come from a Seville. He can come from a Stuttgart. He can come from a Bayern Munich. He could come from a Roma. He could come from an Atletico. Those are the people that we need. But again, what's the point in having best in class if you don't have the best in class players? Nick says, I have an idea for the icons, past shirts or trophies. Nick, I was thinking that myself, but look, I promised I will sort that out. If you insult JB or you're an Arsenal fan, you'll be kicked out. Thanks, Grace. You haven't a clue. We made a bad move bringing Amrin halfway through into the season after he asked to come in the summer. So we haven't got a clue, says Dennis. Scott is in the house. Yes, JB. Hello, Scott. Bordeaux fan says, do people call you? No. People call me JB. People call me by my name. If that's your opinion, I really don't care. If that's your view, then what I suggest you do really is I suggest you go over to your bum mate's channel and stay there. If this channel is not for you, mate, it's completely free. I could come out with something mean, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to go down to your level. But look, if that's what you think, my friend, then go and join the biggest channel out there, mate. This channel is not for you, buddy. My Banhammer's back. Exactly. Don't tell Scotty. Scotty doesn't know. Even don't tell Scotty. Scotty doesn't know. Kevin says, question: better keeper, Les Sealey or Jim Leighton? Oh, tell you what, Kevin, that is a great question. I'm not going to lie, I always preferred Leighton. I think Les Sealey was from an era of better kits. I think I respect Les Sealey. Jim Leighton obviously played more than Les Sealey. I thought Les Sealey was one of those guys who came to the club and basically didn't mind if he didn't play, and just complete respect. I preferred Leighton, but Les Sealey wore the better kits. Stop calling him sir or I'll ban you. Did you see we signed Conor Gallagher? Sorry, I know it's in fact, look, mate, don't have to apologise. You don't have to apologise, my friend. If you're a Spurs fan, mate, you are welcome here. You don't need to apologise. You are welcome. You are welcome. That's the one thing about this channel. We are we don't mind the banter. As long as people aren't rude, we're not bothered. But yes, Gallagher for me, I mean, we absolutely missed the trick on that one. Does the club get a big fine if fans protest and storm the pitch? That might work to get them out. They would get a fine. Yes, Rob, I don't believe, and I get it. I get the frustration, and I'll tell you what I would do. I'll tell you what I would do. I said it this morning. Is this? You don't need to storm a pitch. You need numbers. If you've got, I don't know how many thousand. If you had 100,000 people, right? If you had 100,000 people, you march through up into Old Trafford, you get roads closed off. The police have to literally attend it. The police can walk with the crowd, and if there are so many people outside of the grounds, the police will call it off because it's not safe. You literally don't have to. There is no need for violence. There is no need to storm a pitch. If you have the sheer volume of people, they have to close the roads, and they have to close the game off. So that is exactly what I do. But the thing that puzzles me more and more is, why aren't the 1958? Why aren't the different groups? Why aren't they protesting on Saturday? Why aren't they protesting before the derby? I know the derby is an important match, but fuck it. There are things that are more important. Why are these fans not protesting that game? It's not as if this club hasn't been shit all season. It's not as if Grimsby didn't happen. It's not as if, the Glazers haven't been here for 20 years. Why aren't they protesting on Saturday? Don't get it. JB, I agree with you on Carrick. Want him to do well, but like you say, he's not the guy long term, only short term. But do you think he has a good backroom staff around him, which will hopefully help us? Interesting one. Woodgate was with him at Borough. Steve Holland, Southgate's man. I think that tells you everything you need to know. Johnny Evans is there. Binion is there. It's you've got coaches who are not elite. I think you'll have the backroom staff who will support him, but these are not elite guys. That is my problem. You've got mates rates. You've got mates rates pals there. It is where is the best in class. And look, I think if he's got the support there, but these guys don't know these players. Woodgate doesn't know these players. Holland doesn't know these players. Fletcher, if you listened to Fletcher after that game and you listened to that guy, he knows this team. I think they'll help Carrick, but long term, let's see. Jesswell says United are so bad, it's funny. Can't wait to watch you guys in the new circus tent of a stadium. Sir Ryan says Scott Carson is back. I wish I had his money. But I can't see it's just meaning home games just played behind closed doors if they did it, especially more than once. Mason Mount is Mr. Paper Hits. Mount is useless, just like Shesko and Larman's in your defence. Jess, do you know what, Jess? Well, at least you got some good banter tonight. At least, no, not good banter, Jess, but at least you've got some banter. Do you know what? Your banter is actually better than what we normally get. We normally get the normal, why do you support United? You're not from Manchester. So look, Jess, I actually respect the banter tonight. Jerry says, get Xhaka from Sunderland. He's wasted there. Would jump at the chance to finish his career at United. Jerry, mate, and again, buddy, look, I would have a Xhaka type player. I don't want a Xhaka, but I do agree with you. I would like a Xhaka type of player, but when are we going to stop to be that club? In 10 in my day was the second striker. Zola, Burke. Yeah, I agree with you. This number 10 was a Bergkamp, was a Zola, was a Teddy, not these pseudo midfielders. What a 10 is depends on the style of play. Exactly, I agree with you completely. Dino's in the house. Dino is a legend, absolute legend. Shaw isn't a scapegoat. He's shite, says Ian. Shaw has to be on the pitch to be judged. That's the issue with him. Just for a laugh, I'm liking that, mate. I'm liking that. Worse sick note than an Anderton. Most other players are not good enough. Oxmel says, I'll let you deal with that. The low is world class. We've got a. Do you know what? I'm going to dish out. I'm going to dish out a ban hammer tonight. Delo has been our best player. So look, Grace. Grace. We know our place, Grace, and it's not for us to not for us to tell Grace anything. I would just nod your head with Grace. Do you think at some point we should bring in a world-class keeper? Lemens has been good, to be fair, and a big improvement, but he's still... Yes, agreed. We need best in class. We need a couple of best in class players, and I think a world-class keeper would be beneficial. I would. Lemens has got a lot to learn. I like him. I think Lemens has done a fantastic job, by the way. He's shown some great potential, but I would bring in a world-class player, the same as I'd bring in a seasoned striker up front. So yeah, agree with you. Agreed. Back to pre-Ferguson days, Lemens does need competition to learn off. Rob, he said, not quality. He's too young to be thrown in the firing line. Such a big club. Build a team around Delo. What we got? Connor Spurs deal just sums up. Always late to the party and not invited. And Dino, mate, it pisses me off, right? Because we were talking to him. The reason why Gallagher hasn't happened. This is the reason why Gallagher hasn't happened. And this is not information. This is just my view. We were talking to Gallagher the whole of the summer, right? The reason why we didn't get him was because we weren't prepared to pay the money. The reason why we didn't get him is because we wanted a try before you buy a loan deal. And Atletico said, no, thank you. We going to sell the player. And that's why he's gone to Spurs. Because do you know what? Spurs might be many things, but at least they'll buy players. If we hire Southgate as manager, start next season, I'll burn every United shirt I own, says Luke. 1958 are a bunch of muppets. Well, look, all I'm going to say is I'm not impressed. I am not impressed. Baleba and Edison double pivot. Thoughts, JB? You're not going to hear a no from me. I think Anderson, Stiller, Walton, a pie in the sky. I think Edison would be at a good price as well, and Baleba. So I think I agree with that. Why are either of you in JB's kitchen? Well, shouldn't be in my kitchen. Watching him washing a cucumber. Trade Ladder says, I think you'll do very well in the championship. Thanks, buddy. Thank you. Got a feeling that we'll beat City. Then it says the owners are stringing us on. They know how to stall. That's what they did when they brought in Ineos. Exactly. Did the banhammer go to the person declaring their love for the Glazers? I fucking hope so. I do hope so. Sounds like a excellent gap for life. Well, I love it, mate. I absolutely love it. We get this on a lot of streams, Scotty, mate. We love it, don't we, buddy? We absolutely love it on here. It is one of the most inane, boring comments, mate. You just show yourself. You really do. You really do. You do know United have like a billion supporters, right? Do a billion people live in fucking Manchester? No. It's funny. It's funny. It's funny. If that was an attempt at banter, you failed. Come on. You failed. Herbie is in the house. What a legend. HJB, wishing you all a good night, working in the morning, Herbie. So look, let's get on to the game. Let's get on to the game. So I'm going to go through the City style of play, and you give me your comment. So basically, City set up in possession as a 4-3-3 or 4-1-4-1. Rodri shielding that defence. Now, Rodri, I think he orchestrates. Give me your opinion on this. Has Rodri started to sort of come back into maybe not the form he was at Spain, or was the form when he won the Ballon d'Or? But obviously, Rodri is a conductor. And we know Pep's teams like to dominate possession, and basically they will be happy to give us the ball. They'll be happy to they're comfortable in and out of possession. Again, a high press, and I think this is where we could get some joy, is because they high press. Now I think it depends for us. JB and friend of the channel, I'm gonna need to head off for another shift tomorrow, 10 p.m. tomorrow. Look, Nicarita, my friend, have a good one, and I'll see you tomorrow, my friend. So they like to high press, build up play. Whenever they lose possession, a green bar. You don't see them often. Yes, mate. It's a they basically look. Pep's teams always work hard, so they're going to be looking to win that ball in possession. The centre backs and the midfielders. You've got John Stones. They have got their patterns of play. They know exactly where they fit into the system. Darren says hi. Hello, Darren. I hope you're doing extremely well, my friend. They like to overload on the width. Fullbacks pushing high, creating the overload on the wide positions. They're comfortable. City are comfortable in and out of possession. They're gonna target. Depending on how Carrick sets up, and I think he will go. He will go defensive at home. They're going to look to exploit the backs. John, a serious question. When have you got an electrician booked in to put your light back up in the ceiling? I've got a ceiling light, mate. It works, but if I turn it on, it basically makes the picture look shit. That's the only problem. Is if I put on the main light, I've got spotlights, and if I turn them on, this stream looks utter dog shit. So I promise you, I do have working lights. I promise you, I've got a light just there. I've got 6 spotlights. It just makes the picture look dog shit. What to that one? That one over there. Everything works, mate. It all works, buddy. It all works, mate. Which light are you talking about? What? That? What? That one? The mighty lightsaber. That is a That's good. That I actually got that free. It's the big man up front we have to keep an eye on. Good evening. Just got back from the pub, enjoying the stream with a pizza, says Simon. Thanks, buddy. Get back to it, Jeff. Thanks, mate. City now have a strike of Haaland and Semenyo. So look, if we catch City, if we catch a fully firing Man City, they've now added Semenyo. Foden is playing extremely well again. Haaland, Rodri in there as well. They do like to control the tempo. The worry for me is the midfield. Rodri is going to try to conduct the play, right? Cherky, when we're looking at the list of names here, you've got Rodri. That is the conductor, right? They like to recycle possession as quickly as they can. They've got good players in there like a Foden and a Cherky who are really good in operating in most pockets. They will nick a ball. They're very. They're Lacey reminds me so much of a Foden in the way that they're so quick off the ground in those first 3 yards that they can recycle that ball. They can nick a ball around the corner. They are very, very good, and they will create those spaces between the lines as well. So it is City. I've got a great pivot. Our pivot is crap, and Foden is a big game performer. Cherky is a big game performer. Haaland is a big game performer. Semenyo is a big game performer. The goalkeeper. They've got one of the best goalkeepers. You could argue in the league. The fullbacks are good for City as well. And look, I am talking about City here because we know how we play. Well, in fact, I don't know how we're going to play. It's going to be very, very difficult as well. They're patient. They're patient in the build-up. They are quick in transition. They look to build up the play quickly. They're good out of possession. They're good in possession. Their fullbacks are inverted and they go wide. They push forward. They can attack us in that half space. Rodri controls it. Foden, Cherky, and I'm not even spoken about Haaland up front either. So it is going to be, and as you said there, it's going to be such a they're going to be so buoyed. Exeter 10-1, and look, I know it's an FA Cup, but the confidence that they must have in that side. So for me, the danger men are Erling Haaland. You give him half a chance. Who's going to mark Haaland? One of the scary things for me is who's going to mark Haaland. Is Aiden Heaven going to be given that job? Can Maguire come in? If you play Maguire, you sacrifice that pace. Then we can't play a sort of higher line. If Maguire plays, it tells you everything that you need to know. So I don't know. Foden and Cherky, have we got those players who are able to stick with them? When you look at our wide players, when you look at the midfield that we've got, I think you'll go with an Ugarte again, because I think he likes the legs. Ugarte's not great. He'll probably play Mainu in there as well, Bruno Fernandes. But then what happens to the width? Does he play Ahmad on the wide? Does he then go for, he'll go Shesko up top? Does he go Cunha? Does he go of all the tens that he's got? He's got his two AFCON players back. Do they split? Does Ahmad play on the left or the right? And in Bumo, where does he play? Does he play width? Does he play the split in number 10s? So, those things for me are going to be key. Diaz as well, centre back. Look, we know what the City team is. We know what they're capable of. Now, how can we win this game? It's a derby. Anything is possible. Look, I do not trust this team, right? But this is a bloody derby. I refuse. There are games this season where I've said that we're going to lose, right? Because I know this team. I can't stand these players. I can't stand the Glazers. I can't stand Ineos, Wilcox, Omar Barada. Absolute incompetent players, right? I'm not going to predict the loss. This is a derby. Anything is possible. Look, I know what this team is. This team has to go out and do something. And what I mean is this. I know we lost to a Brighton at home and Everton at home, a Grimsby, right? Yes, we did. We were piss poor. But this is a fucking derby, right? And I'm going to say this again. What we need in this game are performances. I don't care if we are getting battered, right? And we are against it like Liverpool, right? This is the derby. You get stuck in. It's gonna be bombarded, right? But I don't care. We absolutely have to get something out of this game. And I'm not talking about a league, by the way. I'm not talking about finishing 4th, 5th, 6th. This is about pride, right? This is about something that goes beyond the league, right? This is about pride. This is about if Carrick wants to build something in these players, and a lot of you guys on here have said we need a coach that can come in and coach these players, right? Carrick keeps saying that it's a confidence thing. Fletcher has said the same thing, right? If that is true, build confidence by going out there. This is a match where I cannot express enough. You play for the badge. I don't care if you don't support this team as a child, if this is your job. These players need to know what this match is. Liverpool obviously is the bigger one. But this is, for some people, this is the biggest one. This is the one. This is a derby. I don't care if they're all crying after the Brighton game. I don't care if Wilcox has walked in. They're going, oh, come on, lads. Like, you need to finish 4th, 5th, 6th. I don't want those players to be thinking about that. I don't want these players to be thinking about Brighton. I don't want these players to be thinking about who's going to come in. I don't want these players to be thinking anything other than this is a fucking derby. Okay? This is a derby. We have to win this match. I know what we are, but we have to win this game. And then look, if we go to an Arsenal and we get beat, I'm not going to be happy about it. But we have to win this derby. We've got to. And then, if we do win this game, what's the excuse? This is a for these players. This could be a turning point in this season. And what I mean by a turning point is, I don't mean that just because they win a game or they've turned a corner. I don't forgive these players, right? But there has to come a point where you go, if I want to stay at this club, I am a United player, right? I will get my head to whatever, but I don't care if Erling Haaland on Saturday is literally going to put his size 12 boot on a ball and a player can put their head on it. Put your head on it and get kicked in the head. Like I'm not a fan of it, but Vidic would put his head on the line. Rio, as much as I think he's as a pundit, absolute fool, but as a player, fantastic player, right? Roy Keane, David Beckham, you know, they have to put their bodies on the line. If we are defending for the majority of the game, Ollie used to have 30% possession, right? I think that we can get back at a City. It is a derby. If this crowd has to get on their back. If this crowd gets on to their back, makes it difficult for these players. They've got to be smart. If Carrick is a smart guy, if Carrick can set traps, can Carrick bring? What has Carrick got? We're going to have to see traps. We're going to have to see these traps. They're going to have to be patient. City are going to have a lot of the ball. We're going to have to be smart. Carrick is going to have to be smart. We're going to have to break quickly. We're going to need Mbumo. We're going to need Cunha. Fernandes is going to play. We need Fernandes, right? And when I say that, we need a captain's performance. That is what we need. We need a season-defining performance from him. And as much as I'll still say that I think he needs to go, I hope Fernandes scores a hat-trick. I will celebrate. That game for me is so important. I don't care who scores. We have to win that match. So I think one of the things that we need to do is target set pieces as well. This is why I think Maguire could be used. I think we need to take our chances from free kicks, set pieces as well. We're not going to have much of the ball. We need to be smart with the ball. If we can transition quickly, if we're going to play with width and Ahmad, we need to get those balls wide. We need to make City think. Now, one of the other things that is one of the things that is a massive concern for me is disrupting the City midfield. We need to disrupt their passes. So, if I was the manager, I'd be saying to Ugarte, you need to basically be doing a park. You basically need to be going at a Rodri. You need to basically be trying to disrupt the lines as possible, trying to stop him doing what he does best. And I think we just have to be smart. Look, City are the team in form. They've got the better. They've got the best coach. They've got the best players. They play some fantastic stuff. But this is a derby. This is a derby. This is not the same. This is not a Brighton. This is not a Bournemouth. And look, I'm not giving these players the benefit of the doubt. I would not predict a loss. I would not predict the loss in this match because this is different. This is not just another match. I want these players to not care about 4th, 5th, 6th. I couldn't give a toss. I couldn't give a toss. This game is about winning for pride, and that's what I want them to do. I want them to build in some pride for this season and win the match. I don't win it for points. Don't win it for points. Don't win it for a place. Don't win it for your ego. Don't win it for your vendetta against a manager. Win it for the fans. Win it for the badge. Win it for the pride. Win it so we can say we played them twice. They beat us and we beat them. That's what we should be doing. I don't care about 3 points. I don't. This is a game. This is not just a Premier League game. Yeah. Trafford was played by City. Had a great season at Burnley last year. Was told he would be number one, and then that's right. I agreed. If there is to be a late goal, Cherky will be the player. The geezer knows all the buzzwords, don't he? You're getting very close. Getting very, very close. Honestly, the drive home was dangerous. It says, as a lifelong United fan, we are washed and will only get worse until the club sells up. Who is Mark Harper? You know what I mean. Erling Haaland. You know what I mean. I think Trafford should go somewhere else and get himself some game time. We need a manager that has a backbone like Roy Keane. Rob says, I think we will set up a 4-2-3-1, but on attack, fullbacks push up because Carrick likes the crosses into the box. And I think that would be a very, very sensible approach. I think our possession is going to be low. I think we need to go for it. It's almost going to be. I think it's almost going to be like a basketball game. Simon says Haaland hasn't scored for the last 2 games, so he will be looking to break his brief goal drought. Siphon says hi. Bruv, the Middle East country's been playing proper rough. I worry about Ugarte. Keep him on the bench in the nearest park. Nice shirt. Yeah, this is a lead shirt. Amrin would have beaten City. I don't know about that, mate. He didn't beat City at their ground. Look, I think I don't know. I really don't know. I would have said Amrin would set up better, but these players are awful. We can have beaten City. I can't even predict the score exactly. We need to attack from the get-go. I'm happy Carrick is here. I think he'll cook. That was a good appointment from Wilcox. That's your view, my friend. You're entitled to that view. That is your view. I don't share the same view. Wilcox is an incompetent idiot, but that's my view, and that's yours. Paul Swansea Villa says, evening from Wales. Legend, my friend, I hope you're doing extremely well. We have been lethargic in the last 2 games. Time to wake up and give our fans something to be happy about. Yes, Simon, I do agree. Paul says, loving the shirt tonight. I do love this shirt. I absolutely love this goalkeeper shirt. Absolutely phenomenal. Have City ever lost a Premier League game in January under Pep? Leo says, yawn. A victory for us would give Arsenal more ammo to win the next game and widen the points gap. Who are the mods in here? The absolute banning me for bantering Liverpool like they're not our rivals. We have to score first. Scott says, I'm here. If ex-players can't motivate current squad... the thing is, though, right, Leo, like I think, Leo, I sort of fall somewhere in between the gap, right? And what I mean by that is this. If you're a world-class player, right, I totally agree with you. And what I mean is, I don't want these ex-players coming in to talk to these players now, right? Rooney, Vidic, Rio. But look, Rio, we know Rio coming into this squad. Imagine Rio doing a team talk. I mean, I'd rather like a Hannibal Lecter come in and talk, right? I don't want them to be inspired by the ex-players. I want them to be inspired by the exploits of the young players. Go and walk around the ground. Go and look at the cups. Go and watch videos. Jesus Christ. Go and watch the DVDs. Go and read the books. learn about the history. Let that inspire you, not a chat from Paul Scholes, Nicky Butt. I mean, I just don't see like how that helps. Like how I was inspired to support this club was because I read books, because I was told stories. You know, an ex-player didn't come up to me and start talking about this club is great. You know, I fell in love with this club because of the story. And I think that whilst I do agree that if these players can't get motivated by the history of this club, look, at least let professional pride. You know, the motivation shouldn't be ex-players; it should be the fans. The fans should be the ones to motivate these players. It should be the pride in doing well for the people that pay for you to be on that pitch. You know, those fans and the fan base around the world, those watching you. Oh my God, my nose absolutely streaming. For the millions in attendance, for the millions watching you play this game that everybody loves. And if the pressure is too much, then piss off. Like if Mbumo comes out and says, "Look, I can't," you know, the pressure is too much, Mbumo, piss off. Like I've got no time for players who find this pressure hard. That, oh my God, my nose threw my head in. This is the consequence of playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world, in the stadium that you play in. They need to motivate themselves. You know, I don't want Shesko to be the new Rooney. I don't want Shesko to be the new Andy Cole. I want Shesko to be Shesko. I want Shesko to be the new world-class player. Now, I want Shesko to be himself. Simon says, no excuses in this match. We'll wake up Bruno and smell the football. Exactly. No one, broski, we're all good. Good. Ufata, he says, Leo. Quality. To be fair, I'd rather have a gust of wind in the middle of the park than him, Leo. That's cool, buddy. This may be impossible, but I'm counting on City having an off game, and that is wishful thinking. Look, we've spoken about like how they play. We've spoken about how we play. This is a derby. There can be no excuses. Look, the bare minimum that I expect in this game, if somebody's going to put a foot in from the get-go. Right? Tell them to get stuck in. Right? I'm not talking about a red card. Let these City players know they're on your ground. Right? Yes, they've got better football players. Yes, they are a good team. This is our fucking ground. This is our home. I want Bruno Fernandes from off to be sticking one on a Foden, a Rodri. Just stick one on him. Maguire, right? Haaland, Maguire. Don't let him turn you. Like make sure he knows you're there. You know, do those legal moves, like, you know, Vinnie Jones, right? I know you can't do that now, but, you know, punch me in the nuts. Like you've got to let these players know this is your home. You do not come into our home and our ground, and you do not dictate. Or at least you know today that you are in a battle, and if you're not up for a fight today, City, then you're fucked. This is the mentality that we need to have, you know. And yes, City may be like having a sort of off game, but the crowd has to make that happen. The noise has to make that happen. The players have to make that happen as well. So, you know, anything is possible. Sky says, ban me if you want, I'm too tired. City have been drawing a lot and have many injuries, but Superstition says they'll win every year. In look, I hope City have got injured players, and I mean that with the greatest respect. City will slap United. That again, you know, you've got your things. I will get up to the comments. Thanks, Leo. Trafford, I think, wants out. Trafford, what they did to James Trafford was disgusting. But look, that is the nature of City. They want best in class. Breaking United thinking of changing name to pick the team Wilcox United. Mark Harris, legend of the channel. I feel privileged to know I'll never be hit by the banhammer. You think the African lads are back in the first team or need a rest? They've been back a week and a bit. I think they've been back for a bit, so I think that they're fine to play. If we get the first goal and then we can't afford to relax, City will punish us. Afcon's a nice day out for him, Boomer and Ahmad. I've just remembered it's a 12:30 kickoff. What about the jet lag? I think they're fine. I think they're fine. I think they came back like a week ago. Zai says, who do you think is going to win, City or United? United, mate. I look. There are certain games where I will throw my judgment out of the window. Right? If this was a Aston Villa game, right? I'd go. I know what these players are. I am not predicting a win because we're on form. I've told you I can't stand these players. I still think we finish between 8th and 10th, but I am not going to predict a loss in this game. I want to win. I think that we can win. Our backs are against the wall. I'm hoping the Carrick effect. Look, we've got to clutch at straws here. All right. We've got to. If we go to Arsenal and get spanked, fine, right? Fine. That it's not fine, but but this game, no. So I am gonna predict the win. I've got no reason why. I've got no rhyme or reason. The only reason I'm going to predict the win is because I want to win. It's a derby, and we're going to win it. What do you reckon of Phil Mitchell at Palace? Looks a cracking fullback. Will probs do a job over Tillo? Yep. Harry Brandon says hello. I hope you're not doing, but it's hard to see. And look, Scott, again, look, the logical person in me says there is no chance, but my heart says we're gonna win. Zero faith, but will be surprised. Take a long break and come join the watch along, Sky. If we'd had a bounce with Fletcher, I'd maybe be more optimistic, but they're all just seem emo on the pitch. Phil Neville with his voice would bore us to death. I can't. I'm only one in all day. Jay Hughes says Cherky wants to kill United. Said it before he was injured before the first game when City beat us 3-0. No, but if an ex-player who's in charge of the club is solely employed to manage our club, can't get anything out of our squad, have endured us at the top, then anyone would struggle. Yeah. Jay Hughes says, Semenyo going to fly down the wing and Dorgu down the other with Cherky in the middle and Haaland up top two. Look, Jay, mate, again, the Doku thing, I even, I've not mentioned him like on this stream either, look, any logical person, which I am a logical person, any sane logical person is going to say City are going to walk this game, right? But this is a derby. This is a derby, Jay, and I demand a win. I don't want to win for the look. 3 points is nice. I don't want to win because it's for 3 points. I want to win for some fucking pride. Like these players are the underdogs. This is probably the worst team that I have ever seen. Let's get a win. Let us get a win. Ex-player and Prem proven is overrated with top teams. Pep, Sir Alex, Klopp, Mourinho, or noobs. Scott says, leave your mark out there. doing anything stupid. Yeah, exactly. Could City field two completely different squads and beat us with both? Yes, but this is the derby. Wenger to the best Prem ever were not proven in the Prem or X players. I mean, they got Wenger from the Japanese league. I mean, you know, Bruno goes off with a red card. If you want him back, yeah, look, Bruno Fernandes needs to step up in this game. Bruno Fernandes, look, I need to see something. You know, and I mean, when I say he needs to get stuck in, these players need to look. I don't want to see any injuries, you know. I don't want to see any of that shit. These players need to leave something on the City players, because I damn well know City players will leave something on our players. You know, if I was playing, I would pocket Haaland all day, and I'm a winger. City will dictate the play. Yes, I do. I agree with you. Might turn it in more if I did that banhammer to the knees. Like I said, VAR and bad refs won't be on our side. They're never right. If a goal is ruled offside, we don't want half asleep ref debating it for 3 or 4 minutes. I'm a free man, says Jackie. Micken says hi. Hello, buddy. Mark Antonio says hi. Micken, hello, my friend again. Stay away from Celtic fans and you'll be sweet, Jackie. Foolish predicting United to win. Look, I'm not one of these. Like, if you've watched this show before, Jay, I am not a person who is like who says that we're going to win for clicks, right? I just can't predict the loss in this game. I will not predict the loss. I won't do it. I'm very, very stubborn in terms of, look, if somebody was going to ask me, if this wasn't a City, let's just say this was, I don't know, Arsenal game, right? We're getting beat, right? We are getting beat, but this is not that game. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to win because we're playing the best and because I genuinely think that we beat City. I demand a win. You know, I demand a win. And if we don't win, it tells you everything you know about these players. It tells you everything you need to know. Carrick is untouchable. For me, this is not on him. If these players capitulate, there is nowhere else to go, and Wilcox needs to be sacked. The one thing I will say is if this team gets absolutely hammered, Wilcox needs to fuck off. And he needs to be sacked. Someone says we can't afford to draw another game. It's 3 points that we want. I want to win, but I also wanted to win against Grimsby. What do you think of the Glazers and Jim? Have you seen a bunch of uglier people than the Glazers? I can't. If you've ever watched this channel before, I fucking despise the Glazers. I despise everything they represent. I despise everything about them. They don't talk to fans. They've never spoken to fans. They've never answered for their crimes in this club. They're arrogant. They're slimy. They are the worst thing to happen to football ever. I'd probably say they're the worst thing to happen to football since I can't remember his name now, and I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to get it wrong. No, I'm not going to say it. And I do agree they are fucking ugly. I agree with you, Eddie. The Glazers are they just remind me of just slugs, just disgusting slugs. Brother, these are they are just absolutely horrid, inside and out, just horrid human beings. There is nothing redeemable about these people. We turn up for more derbies. There is some Adams family vibes to them, sure. Carrick is trying to bring some pride back into this beleaguered club. Matt the Monkey says, this is what it would sound like if you strung all the cliches you cooped together in a sentence. Have an original thought. Matt the Donkey. Matt the Donkey, your name sums you up because you clearly, sorry, Matt the Monkey, sorry. Sorry, you are just, I am confusing you with a donkey. How am I supposed to sum it up? Like, these are my opinions. If Matt, like, here's the thought, Matt, right? If I sound like other people, right, what does that tell you? It tells you that the problem is pretty much the same across the board, Matt. If you use your brain, if people are saying the same things, and if I say the same thing, how is it cliche to say that I can't stand these Glazers? These are my views, Matt. If you don't like it, and you don't like how I talk, you don't like the cliche things that I say. And the thing about this channel, Matt, is that I will read out the comments. I don't give a shit, mate. I really couldn't give a shit. If you don't like the channel, then leave. I don't know what else you want us to say. Leave. You're not welcome. It's basically a bit like, when you're in a pub and you're like having a chat, right? And then you've got some pissed up twat that comes in, or you've got that friend of a friend that nobody likes, and they come into the conversation and they'll just do a wet fart and leave, or they just start talking shit. Matt, that's you, mate. You're the drunk guy that comes stumbling into the room that everyone laughs at. You're the guy that comes in and nobody likes. Just leave, mate. Just leave. I've had a broken kettle for a year and just thought the water cooled down quickly in the new house. Bruno is our captain. It is time to prove his worth. Really hope the rest of the files are released and redacted. I'll let you crack on with that. I want to see a happy Fergie after the match if we put in a good performance. Remember the Witches film from the 90s, pure Glazer vibes. The old ladies take off their masks. I love that film. Absolutely loved that film. Not seen the Goalkeeper top in a minute. You defo wouldn't let your kids near them. Witches is a great film. I do agree. Liam says hi. I'm sure I've seen one of the Glazers on the Addams Family, Uncle Fester. Samuel R. Jackie will join. Eddie says, as a layman, question, no Troy, how have they managed to leverage a buyout, and then the rule got changed so these purchases can't be made? So look, it was before it happened. The Glazers were buying up shares, and then the thing happened with JP McManus. They had 28% shares. The Glazers come in, bought those shares, and when they got to 75%, because people think that the Glazers just suddenly walked into the club and bought the shares and bought the club. No. They basically had this plan. The Glazers, Malcolm Glazer was planning this for fucking years, right? They bought shares here and there, and then as soon as they acquired those JP McManus shares, that was it. There was nothing that could have been done. They owned all the shares, and then obviously under UK law, if you then have the majority shares, nobody can do anything. And again, it was before the rules changed. So those on buying clubs changed because of the Glazers. No one can do what they did again. Exactly. It's a case of it should have been, look, the The quality gates should have been there before. Those things should have been put into place before, but sadly they were put in after, and they've never done anything about it. Your all-time favorite derby, Rob? I tell you, my all-time favorite one was I was away in Thailand, right? And it was the one where Michael Owen scored the winner. It may not have been the best match. It may not be the most classic matches, but I remember watching that game and I went from bar to bar to pub, and we scored, they scored, we scored, and they scored. And I remember going to the last bar and Owen scoring the winner for me. I was just, for me, that was just amazing. The Glazers weren't born, they weren't born. Frankenstein made them. They're sucking them off out of the club. Yes, they are. Jackie says starts from the back, and we don't even have a decent keeper. I come on. Like Larman's, Larman's is the best that we could do. Like, let's not blame him. Look, he is doing his best. And my question is, would you rather have Onana in charge? Just how they leverage the club to buy it, too a little too complicated to explain right now. Look, Lemons oozes class to me. I hope the fans don't turn on him. Is this live? Yes, it is. This is live. He said, I've been going to Old Trafford since 1978. We are the owners. The supporters are not the Glazers. It's time we push them out. Are not, and it's true. Look, they are the custodians, right? They are supposed to be the custodians. They don't own the club. They think they do, but they don't. The players are custodians. The players can hope. The players can hope at this club that they will become a legend. The majority of these players will not become a legend. It's owned by the fans. It was the greatest con. I think you're right. Going through it, he says we're biased as fans, but United is British and a world institution. There needs to be retrospective look at the purchase, especially as they change the rules. And I agree with you, Eddie. I have started a petition. It's currently going through some stuff, but I am starting a petition because I think that, look, nothing may happen, right? But in my opinion, I think the government should basically do a compulsory sell order against the Glazers and basically protect this club as an historic. I don't know what you'd call it, but basically a protected asset. Owen goal has to be the one for me too. City were basically irrelevant for most of the time. Liam says, I am the Glazers' biggest critic. However, you can't deny they were very shrewd people. I am, when it comes, Liam, when it comes to what they did, 100% shrewd. They are 100. Malcolm was an absolute, and I've said this before and I'll say it again. Malcolm Glazer, the master of the leveraged debt. That's what millionaire and billionaire people do. They don't buy stuff. Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk, the reason why he never gets taxed or taxed really, really small is because he doesn't use money. He basically goes to the bank, sells them a bunch of shares for 200 million quid, and anytime he wants to get some cash out, he basically goes and gets a loan from the bank. And the reason is that you then owe the bank debt, and you don't pay tax on debt. So billionaires are because they don't spend their own money. They will use an asset to leverage against another one, so that asset will pay for that one. Malcolm Glazer, you know how he bought the Buccaneers, leveraged debt, and how he got a stadium built for free was because he basically went to Tampa and said, look, if you don't build me a stadium, I'm going to move the franchise out, which they can do. Tampa Bay shit their pants and introduced a new tax to pay for the stadium. And, you know, and then he used his assets from the Buccaneers to then basically use that asset to leverage the debt against the club. So then they used the money, and the reason why he got the money was because he had the Buccaneers, and then he plonked the money straight onto the club, his asset. So they've never spent a penny. And Liam, you're right. It is a smart move. Imagine this. Imagine you have bought a football club, never spent a penny on it. You're drawing money out of the club. They've taken £1 billion out. They've spent £800 million on just interest to service the debt. They've never paid it back. The club has paid all of the debt. And when they sell the club, they're going to sell it for a couple of billion. Fucking masterstroke. Absolute fucking masterstroke. How much profit do they pocket compared to the debt repayments? Yeah, so they basically have pocketed £1 billion and they've used £800 million to pay off the interest. So they've basically cost this. So from a factual perspective, they have cost this club £1.82 billion. Just gone. Petition is a good shout. Why not? At least you're trying to do something. Look, you know, and look, the petition, if it comes back and is all good to go, I will be putting it up on the channel. There'll be links. I've put it through, and let's see. Best ever derby goal for me was Mark Hughes. Also, the best goal for me was Sparky's goal. I love that goal. Rob, you're right. It was absolutely fantastic. The backlash of Ruben sacking could be the best thing any manager has ever done. Let's go through this. Liam says, I heard that Malcolm Glazer tried to buy Harley Davidson with a leverage buyout as well, most likely against United. Exactly. Well, once you've got a formula that works, you just continue to do it, right? Dave the Red says, hi. Hello, Dave the Red. The state of Old Trafford is tragic. What a disgrace. Ineos and Jim have enabled the Glazers. Look, mate, I find myself tonight, Eddie, agreeing with you more and more and more. It is one of the most disgusting things in my life, and this is why I will never forgive Sir Jim the fucking rat. I will never forgive the Glazers if they knock down our home. They're going to knock down our home. Their plan as a final fuck you to this fan base and this club is to build some fucking stadium I don't give a shit about, couldn't give a flying fuck about it, and then they're going to knock down our home. Our home where legends have played, not a fucking thought, because they're going to knock it down, because guess what? That's land. They can use that land to build something. So they're going to knock our home down. Fucking disgrace. Manchester is red. It is. I'll let you guys argue over that. United is a football institution known across the globe. Start on your position in every every country around the world. I'm sure there'll be enough support to get these removed. To take the piss fully after letting Old Trafford. Yeah, I agreed, mate. It is. I absolutely. It is. That bothers me more than anything else. These American. And again, this is no. I'm gonna take that out because that's not fair. These Glazer owners who have run this club into the ground, taking billions of pounds for their own pocket, are then going to knock down our house. It is a the if the day comes where they have to knock down the stadium, the Premier League and FA should hang their head in fucking shame. If the Premier League and the FA enable, and if the Premier League enable the Glazers to knock down the stadium, they should hang their head in fucking shame. They should be absolutely accountable. It is shameful. It will be absolutely shameful and one of the most disgusting things that I've ever seen in my life. Liam says the dividends and debt repayments could have paid for mega regeneration. Exactly, Liam. Eddie says it is normal to hit legs and feel pain 2 days later. Being final day, can't bloody move now. Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it is. Perfectly normal, mate. I mean, I was going to say so, and then I've said I bash things all of the time. My body parts, not and I'm older, and the moment that you hit an arm or a leg, it hurts. Can we start a petition to make Old Trafford a listed building as well? Well, Liam, the basically my petition is basically to make the club a listed club, is to make it protected, and then basically to force them to sell. Worst ever derby, which affected you for ages. I don't even need to mention it because Scott will ban me. Just hope one day we can absolutely hammer City big time. Listed building this. Yeah, exactly. So look, guys, I am going to go. Fantastic stream tonight. Look, guys, the support is amazing. I can never thank you guys enough for all the support that goes on this channel. We are getting bigger, and I agree with you. If it does go, I will never set foot in that fucking stadium. I will never, ever set foot in that stadium. Absolute, just despicable. Look, Eddie, new sub game, mate. I always say this, right? People who sub to the channel, don't ever think that your sub doesn't mean anything to the channel. It genuinely does. Like any subscriber, I chat to you guys on here. I get to know you guys as well. But yeah, look, it blows my mind. The fact that you guys are prepared to come on here, give the channel the time of day. It is a wonderful thing that you guys have built. Look, I've just come on. I talk some stuff. People think I talk shit, but you guys are the legends. You guys make this channel. So look, thank you, my friend, as well. Look, just it is amazing. I've just subbed because of that comment. Look, guys, I mean, look, you guys, look, I can never repay you guys. So every subscriber, every like, just absolutely makes this channel bigger and bigger and bigger, and it is because of you guys. This channel exists because of you guys. So look, thank you guys. I will be back tomorrow. We've done the City thing now. Look, let's hope there is some more positivity tomorrow. I do want to bring some of that. I don't want to keep talking about Wilcox. I don't want to keep talking about this fucking pile of shit. So hopefully there'll be some positive stuff tomorrow. So I will be on tomorrow. Eddie says, keep it real, your channel will blow up. Too many fan channels are desperate for press and the leaks access and end up caving. I will never be. Never. Scott says, read my last chat. Okay. Let me read your last chat. JB, if Old Trafford gets ripped down, I will go and mate, Scott, if they do rip it down, get me a piece, mate. Look, as much as it will be an absolute horrific day. Look, if that happens, mate, I will put it up and I will take care of it. So look, Scotty, mate, you know, legend. Look, Iddy, mate, absolutely kind. Rob says, JB and all the chat, thanks for your time. Please like and subscribe. Every fan I know will be subscribed to your channel. Look, it's this chat. Look, guys. I mean, it's, you know, I genuinely do not have words. This channel is about you guys, you know, legends. So yeah, I will be back. Zidane says Carrick is going to get us to Champions League. Look, I hope you're right. I do hope you're right. Time will tell. We've got half a season to prove it. So fingers crossed. Look, guys, I will be back tomorrow. Have a good rest of your afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. I am JB. This is the United Devil channel. You lot are bloody legends, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care and good night.